Should you buy the redesigned BMW X3? That's what we're going to find out. Welcome to Car Help Corner, where we help you, the consumer, master the process of car buying and car ownership. BMW has completely updated the popular X3 SUV for 2025. So it's time to find out whether this is a better luxury SUV to go for over rivals like the Mercedes GLC, the Audi Q5, Lexus NX, and a few others. Now, there are a few things that the X3 does extremely well that make it a very appealing SUV to go for. But on the other hand, there are quite a few issues that might make you think twice. And we'll get into those a little bit later. But first, let's start with one of the major positives, which is the engines. And this is an area where BMW really excels over its German rivals from Mercedes and Audi. The X3 can currently be had with two different engines. The standard X3 comes with a turbo 4-cylinder engine, and if you go for the high-performance M50, like the one I'm driving here, you get a turbocharged inline 6-cylinder engine. Both of these engines are so famous that they're often referred to by their code names, the B48 and the inline 6, the B58, and they are extremely impressive. BMW has been using these engines for around 10 years or so they are extremely well proven, and they're now entering their third generation with a number of significant updates. For example, BMW has now added dual injection, so carbon buildup should not be a concern in the long run, and they've also added a 48-volt mild hybrid system with a starter motor generator that gives it a very smooth engine start-stop system when you come to stop signs or lights, and the engine shuts off and comes back on. It's extremely smooth, which is something I don't often say about this feature. They've also dramatically improved the performance and fuel economy. Now, there's nothing wrong with the standard 4-cylinder engine. I've driven it in many other BMW models, and it's perfectly fine. It produces a ton of power, 255 horsepower, 295 pound-feet of torque. It's very smooth and refined, and the fuel economy is surprisingly good. It's able to achieve up to around 33 miles per gallon, or 7.5 liters per 100 kilometers, which is very good for this level of performance. But on the other hand, BMWs are really all about performance and sportiness, and for that, you really do need to go for the inline 6-cylinder engine in the M50, which is a huge upgrade in many ways. The turbocharged 3-liter inline 6 now produces 393 horsepower and 428 pound-feet of torque, which is a lot of power. It makes this SUV sports car quick. The acceleration is incredible. You just put your foot down and it absolutely takes off. And not only is it extremely powerful and fast, but it makes a really nice sound. It's extremely smooth, buttery smooth, which is something that inline 6s are often really well known for. The fuel economy is really not that much worse than the 4-cylinder. This is still very fuel efficient, up to 30 miles per gallon, and because it's so powerful, it's able to tow up to 4,800 pounds with a tow hitch, so it really has it all going for it. It's an extremely well-rounded engine and possibly the best performing engine that you can get in almost any vehicle that's under 100 grand. And when you buy a BMW, especially this vehicle, that's really what you're paying for. You're paying for the performance, the experience of this engine that you just don't get in a lot of rivals. I would certainly say that it's a much better setup than either engine that you can get in the Mercedes GLC, which only comes with a turbo 4-cylinder engine, even on the AMG version, which is not quite to the same level. And the same is true of the Audi Q5. Although it has very good engines, the standard 4-cylinder or the V6 engine in the Q5, the issue with that drivetrain is that it comes matched to a somewhat clunky dual-clutch transmission, as opposed to the BMW X3, which has a proper torque converter 8-speed automatic, the ZF 8-speed, which is one of the best transmissions on the market. And that makes this one of the most robust and durable drivetrains in really any German or European brand vehicle. This is a very strong, well-proven transmission, and even the 6-cylinder engine, the B48 and the B58, are very well-proven drivetrains at this point. As mentioned, BMW has now been making them for around 10 years or so, so most of the bugs are really well sorted. You still might run into a few issues at a warranty, like a failed water pump or maybe the occasional oil leak, but for the most part, these are proving to be very durable drivetrains that do hold up well over time. And that's something that historically you really could not say about BMW. Now, I'll get back to that reliability piece a little bit later on. For now, let's move on to some of the other highlights of the X3. The driving experience is another one, and it's not just the performance of the engine. This is a great driving SUV. As standard, you get BMW's xDrive all-wheel drive system, which is able to move the power around where you need it, and it also has a very well-balanced chassis. So this is a great handling SUV, especially with the M50, which also gives you M Sport brakes, an M Sport differential, you have larger wheels, and you have adaptive M suspension. Now, the only drawback is that the M50 does have a somewhat stiff suspension, so it's not the most comfortable SUV. It would be really nice if you could just get the regular standard suspension of the normal X3 and combine that with this more powerful 6-cylinder engine, which would really be something. The engine is really the highlight of this vehicle, so because you can't do that, unfortunately, that's the trade-off you have to deal with. If what you want is a pure comfort SUV that has a really smooth, softer ride, then you should really be looking at something else. Another SUV like perhaps the Genesis GV70 or the Lexus NX are much better alternatives for that. And the same is true if you want to have a hybrid SUV. At this time, there's no hybrid option available, although a plug-in hybrid and fully electric S3 are eventually going to be coming. At the moment, if you want to have a hybrid or plug-in hybrid, your best option for that would be the Lexus NX. Lexus is really the go-to when it comes to hybrids, and they have the best ones on the market. Part of what also makes the X3 not the most comfortable is the fact that it has run-flat tires, which are known to be a little bit stiffer, more expensive to replace, and don't always last as long. But one thing I really like about BMW is that they give you the option to have regular tires instead of the run-flats, and there's an available compact spare tire as an option. That's a great thing to see, and an option that you don't see on most rivals. Now, moving on to the interior, there are some highlights to touch on here. Firstly, there's the interior space. This is a very spacious SUV. You have a huge cargo area, perfect for families. You have back seats that easily fold flat, and you have very spacious back seats that can easily fit a pair of adults, and very comfortable front seats. BMW makes some of the most comfortable and supportive seats, and these really are some of the best. Definitely a major highlight. On the downside, though, is almost everything else. I have to say this is not the most impressive interior when it comes to its design and build quality and feeling of luxuriousness. You really get the impression that BMW is trying to overcompensate for putting a lot of fancy screens and displays and colored ambient lighting to give off the impression of luxury when it really isn't there. Now, the screens are extremely nice. The infotainment system has a fantastic display, very impressive looking graphics, and it has excellent functionality once you get used to it. On the flip side, it does have a rather steep learning curve. It is a bit confusing and complicated to use, especially for those who are intimidated by having too much technology, and there's no question it would be a lot more straightforward had BMW just put regular controls, regular buttons like you can still find on some rivals. But then that is the same kind of issue you will have with the Mercedes GLC and the Audi Q5. Both of those SUVs are heavily reliant on touchscreens to control pretty much everything. They don't have normal controls, and unfortunately that's just the way the industry is going, at least when it comes to luxury brands like this. The thing with those two SUVs, though, is that they do have very nice interiors. They have the look, the feel of proper luxury, and you really feel like you're getting a vehicle that measures up to its price tag, whereas I'm really not getting that same impression with the interior of the X3. Although the technology is impressive and all of the features you would expect to find are here, at least as options, and you do get a lot of great safety equipment and active safety features, which is great to see. As I said, you're just not getting the feel of proper luxury with the materials, the fin finish, and the overall design. And I'm not really sure that it's measuring up to the very high price tag. And the same could also be said of the X3's design. Now, styling is always a personal preference thing, but I think there's no question that BMW didn't really put a whole lot of effort into the design of this vehicle, and it just doesn't look as stylish and premium as it probably should for that price. And let's talk about that pricing. The X3 is priced between around 52 to 66,000 US, or around 65 to 80,000 Canadian. And if you add options, that can increase the pricing by up to around $10,000. There are a lot of options. This is a BMW after all. And if you want to have the M50 version, the price premium to go with the 6-cylinder is roughly around 15,000 over the standard X3 with the 4-cylinder engine. So the pricing is more or less in line with the Mercedes and the Audi. They're all in roughly the same ballpark. And all three of them, of course, are very similar types of SUVs, which brings up a really important point to mention right now, which is that if you are considering a German European luxury brand such as any of these, you have to be mindful of not just the purchase price, but also the running costs, the maintenance and servicing costs, and the reliability, which is an area that German luxury brands don't always do very well in. They're extremely expensive to maintain and repair, certainly a lot higher than the norm, and they become extremely expensive once the warranty period expires because reliability tends to be somewhat spotty as they age. And that also has an impact, of course, on resale value. These brands don't exactly have the best resale value as they depreciate, especially once that warranty period expires, which is why I always recommend going for one of these as a lease. Own it for 3 to 4 years under warranty and then just return it before that warranty expires so you don't have to be faced with really high maintenance and repair costs. Now, if you're okay with that and you really want to go for one of these three options, should you go for the X3 over the Mercedes and the Audi? Well, I think that the X3 does have a few major advantages. As mentioned, this is a great performance vehicle if you want something that's very sporty, has excellent handling, and the engine performance is fantastic, especially with the M50 with that 6-cylinder, which really blows away most of its rivals. And I think with the X3, the quality and reliability is going to be a little bit better than either the Mercedes or the Audi, because as mentioned, these engines have been around for a really long time, and that 6-cylinder and ZF 8-speed automatic have proven to be very robust and not have too many issues as they age. But aside from that, this is a bit of a tough SUV to recommend because it just falls short in too many areas. The design, the interior, the fit and finish that doesn't live up to its price tag. I mean, really, I was expecting more from BMW, and for what you're getting, it really should offer more for the money. Which is why, if you're just looking for an ordinary everyday SUV just to get around in, go to work, carry your family around, and you want something that's just a little bit nicer with a luxury badge, I think you're better off going for something like the Genesis GV70, the Acura RDX, and especially the Lexus NX. You're going to get a lower cost of ownership, much less expensive maintenance and repair costs. You're going to get better economy if you go for the NX hybrid or plug-in hybrid, and you're still getting all the luxury and comfort that buyers at this price point would expect. To me, that's still really the gold standard in the small luxury SUV class. And if I really wanted to have a performance luxury SUV with this amazing 6-cylinder engine, I think personally I would spend a little bit more and just go for the BMW X5, which to me really solves all the issues with this vehicle. You get the same amazing drivetrain, incredible handling, performance, but a much better design, better comfort, a nicer interior that's laid out a lot better with better luxury. To me, that's really what a BMW SUV should be, and that's really the one to go for. So there you have it. Now, if you were buying a luxury SUV, would you consider the X3 or would you go for one of the other options I mentioned instead? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe. You can also take a look at my other videos by clicking the links up in the corner. You can follow me on Instagram. And if you need any additional car buying advice, recommendations, or help with getting a great deal on your next new car purchase, make sure to check out carhelpcan.com. Thanks so much for watching and see you next time.